Hey guys, just wanted to pop in and let you know the Unpopular Culture team has expanded to add a roster of super dope editorial photographers. Starting today, we are offering sliding scale photography services for creatives of color based in New York, Chicago, and LA. Visit unpopculture.co/book to book your session. Welcome to Day One Fans, brought to you by Listening Party and recorded at Canal Street Radio. I'm your host, LaChelle, and on today's episode, we are talking with Miss Addy Salau, who is a songwriter, producer, and educator extraordinaire. And today's episode is going to be about taking unconventional career trajectories. So if you're someone who maybe started in a career path that isn't creative and you decided to take a more creative path, this is definitely going to be a good conversation for you to tune into. But first, let's get into Currently Obsessed. So do you want to go first?
Okay, so
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This is an awesome way to start the year. So thank you for setting this up.
2020.
Hey. And I'll just get started. So I'm obsessed with a few things right now. So I just came back from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And so obviously, you know, I also write music, including Afrobeat music. Right. So there's just a lot of amazing things out right now. So there's a lot on that front. But before I get there, I do want to shout out a few things that I am really excited and eager to see. So one thing that's out right now, or about to be out in 3 weeks, one of my friends, she got featured in a film called Premature, and it's a love story about a young couple in Harlem. Mm-hmm. A girl's coming of age story. She just graduates from high school and she meets this guy and she's transitioning between high school and college, and it's just really awesome and very New York. And so that got picked up after Sundance by IFC Films.
Oh, nice.
And it's going to be released in theaters February 21st.
And your friend's in it. She's acting.
My friend is in it. Yeah, she got like a lot of great reviews for her role as a supporting actress. And so I'm really proud of her. Her name is Alexis Marie Wint. So okay. I'm really excited to see that. I saw some of the trailer and I was like, yeah, this is what we need.
Okay.
So
cool.
And just shout out to the writer. Her name's Zora Howard. I think she was the Youth Poet Laureate of New York City when she was younger. And,
wow.
Yeah, and so she's written amazing poetry for years that I followed since I was a teenager, and now she's translated that into writing, feature films. So it's really exciting to see that kind of poetic writing translate on the big screen.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Now, the next thing I want to shout out is I went to Art Basel.
How was that?
Oh my God, it was amazing. Shout out to another friend of mine who coordinated this amazing experience called Brooklyn to Basel.
Okay, I think I heard of that.
Yeah, it was amazing. He coordinated a bunch of us folks from Brooklyn to come check out my Art Basel in Miami. This was my third time though at Art Basel. I've gone every single year for the past 3 years because I love art and I just love the energy of Miami. I just love Miami.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. And we got to support this artist, a New York City-based artist. I think he moved to Atlanta more recently, but he's a Haitian artist named Eugene.
Okay.
And he has amazing art, abstract art that was just awesome. So we went to go check out his collection, and we really enjoyed that experience.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Yes. So the last thing, there's just so much music. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
There's this song, and I thought I had the name. I want to make sure I have the name correct of the artist, but it's a song that's just playing everywhere in Ghana and Nigeria, and I think probably all across Africa. It's hilarious and it's fun. It's called Parte After Party, and it's this really fun song that just kind of illuminated what it was like to be in Africa.
Yeah.
During New Year's Eve. It was just during the winter season, it was party after party after party, and so this song kind of felt like the soundtrack to that. And so this guy is named Big Tril. Okay. So you can check that out.
He's an African artist.
Yes, African. I think from Uganda.
Okay.
So song was awesome. And I heard it like every party, and it really just captured the essence of my experience.
Sweet. From my Currently Obsessed, I actually have a book this time because I've been reading more, which is great. I just read Bell Hooks' Sisters of the Yam, Black Women in Self-Recovery. So I've been a big Bell Hooks fan for a while. Like, I haven't read all of her work, but the work that I have read of hers has always like really resonated with me deeply. She has this ability to like put into words the things that you're feeling, specifically as a Black woman. And so I've just been like going through my own motions, I think, being in my early 30s and like going through those certain transitions and like evolving from things that I endured in my 20s and even my adolescence and childhood. I've been really focused on like committing myself to my own personal healing as a daily practice, not as like a destination, because it's not something that you arrive at as a destination. It's just something that you have to embody in how you move throughout the world and how you handle certain situations that you're in. And so I read this book and it was so good. And like, just really for me specifically being like African-American and coming from a history of like not knowing where I come from really and learning about how slavery has impacted the way that we are parented, because so much of how we're parented is informed by how we were enslaved. Meaning like, you know, putting other people's needs before our own, not having the space to be emotional in ways that we should be able to be as humans. And like, it was just really, really deep. And I felt so good after reading it because I felt affirmed. And if you haven't read anything by Bell Hooks, like, please, she has something literally for everyone. She has really great pieces of work about masculinity. She has great work about just educating yourself in general that anyone can read. But that was really great. And less heavy, I finished both seasons of You.
Oh my God, me too.
How do you feel about that show?
Wow. I mean, to me, it's just like the perfect example of like how
white male supremacy.
Oh my gosh. I was just like, you know, trying not to spoil. I just felt like the way that it ended was hilarious. That like, you know, just basically when a man gets everything that he actually wants, it's not like enough.
Right.
And that there's always this idea that there's something greater or something more that they that they haven't proven themselves to earn or deserve.
Right.
Yet they kind of crave. And so that was just kind of an interesting theme that I pulled out of there.
Yeah. And also like, it's just weird how like, for me, it was terrifyingly relatable because I've dated men like that.
Oh my God.
I've dated, well, yeah, it's crazy. Like I dated once a guy, I tell people this story and it's like one of the most unbelievable stories, but I caught him recording our conversation on a date.
No.
So like we had went out and we were just like sitting in the car after talking in front of my apartment and we had the same phone. And so I picked up the phone thinking it was my phone to check the time. And the iPhone like voice memo thing had been like just recording for like an hour.
Oh my God. And how did he defend himself?
He was like, oh, it's so embarrassing. You know, like I record things to like keep it as my personal journal. And like at the time, like I was more like a Beck, like, okay, you're obviously fucking nuts.
Right.
But then still kind of just like, okay, maybe he's just like really intense.
You wanted to believe the best in him.
Right. And so after that, he like sent me like 5 to 10 minutes worth, I don't remember exactly, but multiple voicemails basically saying that I wasn't in touch with myself emotionally. And that's why I couldn't realize that what me and him had was a real thing.
Wow.
Yeah. And context, I had been dating him for maybe 3 weeks.
Okay.
And not even exclusively.
Okay.
So like that show is so scary to me because I'm like, that could have been me.
It really could have been.
And like,
Thank God it wasn't.
Thank God it wasn't. And then like other weird things like showing up at my house. Like one time, like I had went out and I was gonna hang out with him after the club, but I decided not to because I was too drunk. And the next morning I had saw on my phone that I had missed calls from my door. I had never invited him up to my place at that point. So that means he looked my name up in the directory of my building.
He didn't know where you
lived? He knew where I lived because he had dropped me off before.
Got it.
But I wasn't answering my phone because I was drunk and passed out. So he just showed up and found my name in the directory. So that happened. he came to one of my shows once and acted like he didn't know it was when I used to perform, and acted like he didn't know. And then that I thought was the end of it. Then I moved to New York. This was back when I lived in Chicago.
Okay.
A whole year after I moved to New York, someone texts me, one of my homeboys is like, yo, so I was at a listening party and so-and-so dropped your name in a song. I was like, what?
In what context? And also,
this is what happens.
On some Drake shit?
This is what happens when you sleep on me. And basically, it was a diss track.
Stop it. Did he use your recordings as like backdrop?
No.
Okay.
No, but he did put my actual name in it.
Oh, my God.
And so then I went off. Like, I texted him a very lengthy, like, this is why I never mess with you, because you're crazy.
And
like,
that was 3 weeks.
That was 3 weeks.
Wow.
Maybe a month. Maybe, if that. So, like, not even that deep. So, fast forward, that was 2012. No, when did I move to New York? 2016. That was the last time I had ever had to deal with him. I caught him lurking my stories the other day.
He's probably, he could potentially be watching right now.
He could, and it's just
not.
like, watch. He needs to watch you. He needs to like understand that like something is not right with your mind.
Not
like,
at all.
I think it doesn't even come from a place of like love or infatuation. It comes from a place of like possession,
exactly, control,
and like control. It's just like, oh, there's this one woman that I didn't like, that didn't, submit to me. And she's crazy because I know what's best for her, and I would have been the best guy for her. And it's just like, dude, like, cut your losses. So yeah, that show is super terrifying for me personally.
Yeah, no, it definitely it had me shook, and like just this constant theme that's popping up in my life of like, from roommates to situations that I've been in where like there's men who bring very little to the table, who feel entitled to your entire time being in essence.
Or think they know know your needs better than you. That's the thing about Joe that just feels so gross to me.
Right. It's like, I'm telling you, but you're not listening.
Right. Because you don't care.
Right. Because I'm not in touch with myself.
Right. Exactly.
That has to be why.
Have you seen the movie Ingrid Goes West?
No.
So season 2 of You actually took a lot from that film. It's on Hulu.
Okay.
It stars, I don't know who the main girl is, but Elizabeth Olsen, the Olsen twin sister. O'Shea Jackson Jr. is in it. He's such a cutie. But it's about this girl who like stalks this influencer. So she like wants to be best friends with this influencer, gets a bunch of money because her mom died, moves to LA, and it like literally is like stalking her. But it's more centered around like the whole nature of like how being an influencer and being friends with influencers, there's like such a lack of like depth in those type of friendships.
Yeah.
Because it's really about appearances. But I thought it was really interesting because watching it, it's very clear that you took a lot from that film. The second season specifically.
Yeah, definitely would check that out.
So I watched that. And then Jezebel. Have you heard of Jezebel? The film it was on, I think it was released South by Southwest last year. Okay. And then it just got released on Netflix. It's by Numa Perrier, who is... Have you ever heard of Black and Sexy TV on YouTube?
No, I haven't.
So Black and Sexy TV is like a YouTube channel that came up around the same time as Ycee did with Awkward Black Girl. So they produced all of this like original content. So it was this couple duo, Numa and her partner, Dennis, who had been producing all this content. They had so many shows. And a lot of people like Jay Ellis, for example, from Insecure, like got their start on these web series before they got bigger projects. So Numa has since departed from Dennis and is doing her own thing. So it's her first feature film. Wow. And it's semi-autobiographical about when she was 19 and was a cam girl. Oh, so the early ages of internet sex work. Oh, okay. So it's set in like 1998. So at the very beginning of like people using like chat rooms and stuff like this. And she's basically 19. She's in this situation where like she has to help make money for her family. And so she becomes a cam girl.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's really interesting to watch because you don't really hear, you don't really see depictions of Black women that are actually based on like our real lived experiences and not what people like assume our traumas are, I guess.
Yeah.
But also I thought it was really interesting because the whole term Jezebel is like such a common trope given to Black women in film. And for her to kind of like take that name and like apply her actual lived experience to it was really cool.
Okay, well, you just gave me a bunch of things to go check out. So I'm excited to definitely check that out.
Yes.
I'm really, really excited.
Oh, and last thing, music.
Yeah. What you listening to?
There's this artist, a Nigerian artist named Ycee. Do you know Ycee?
Ycee.
It's spelled Ycee. He's a Nigerian rapper. I just discovered his...
What's his song? The name...
I don't know all of his songs, but the other night I just discovered a song on this project that he did with this Nigerian singer named Bella called... what's the name of the song? Tropicana fruit something. I don't know. But it's very like...
Tropicana fruit juice.
That's, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I feel like I might have heard it and may not recognize his name.
Yes, so. It's very vibey.
Okay,
like if you listen, do you listen to Santi at all?
Yeah, I love. Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of like that kind of
groove. Yeah,
kind of. It's like it's the perfect mix of like Afrobeat, but
and
like
R&B.
Yes,
they call that genre Alté. So like all those artists who are that kind of like eclectic type.
It's like a mix, genre mix, genre Alté.
Yeah, Alté.
Nice. I like it.
Alté.
So, yeah, that's what I'm listening to.
Nice. Okay.
All right.
I'm definitely going to plug that in again. I think I'm sure I heard everything. There were so many things I was hearing while I was drunk in Nigeria. I was like, Shazam this, Shazam that.
Yo, it's a really good time for African artists right now.
It really
and I
is.
hope that like African and Caribbean artists, and I really hope that like, I hope that they get the credit and the visibility that they deserve.
Preach.
Because Afro beats is becoming the standard for pop artists. Pop artists are taking from that sound. So,
and the one of the best things though about Afrobeat is that it's very difficult to recreate in an authentic way. And when I was out in Nigeria, you know, a lot of my ideas, you know, I work with kids and I teach them songwriting too on the side, and I do that within the community in Bed-Stuy and just across the city. And so I just going to Nigeria and just seeing like all of this talent and thinking about all of the ways that I can help to develop this talent, this untapped talent, and give them the tools and the resources to know how to handle the business that comes behind it.
Right.
Because a lot of it is not just, you know, creating and then, you know, everything pops for you and now you have money. It's like a lot of times it's creating an exploitation.
It most of the time it is. Yes.
So very few people, you know, actually are able to make it and have their stuff out there. So that's an opportunity I definitely want to develop while I'm out there for sure. So
cool. So if you guys have currently obsessed selections, please email them to day1pod@gmail.com. All right, so let's get into this topic.
Yes, let's do it.
So we're talking about people who have taken unconventional trajectories. I think that's really important to talk about in the creative space because a lot of times, especially in mainstream spaces, we see a lot of successful creative people in those positions because they chose to take that path earlier. And maybe they chose to take that path because they had more support in order to do that. You know, a lot of people who maybe went to art school, went to film school, maybe they were in, like Beyonce, were in pageants growing up. But sometimes it's not always like that. I know for me, like when I was younger, I always wanted to be a singer and a writer. But I never thought it was something that I could actually realistically do. And so I spent, you know, my college years trying to do something that helped other people because, you know, Black women were always of service to other people. That would be a respectable career. So I pursued sociology because I wanted to be a social worker. But then I quickly realized that, like, I didn't really have the fortitude to do something like that. Like, I really was actually a creative person. And there's a whole slew of lessons that kind of come to you when you decide to be bold enough to like go on to that path. And so I want to talk to you specifically because you have a very interesting background and that you started in a very reputable, respectable, quote unquote, career path.
Right.
And you're taking what you've learned from that career path and applying it to a new path of doing something more creative. So yeah, talk to me about what you wanted to be when you grew up and what you're doing now.
Okay, so I'll start from when I was real young. When I was real young, I wanted to be a firefighter. I just had a short attention span, and I just liked things that were shiny and fun. And we would drive past this fire station in order to get to my house, and like every day. And so I just would see the firefighters like come out and slide down the poles and like get in the truck, and just like I just like the pace and the speed of it all. So throughout my childhood, I wanted to be a firefighter.
That's adorable.
And my parents were like, "Oh my God, we did not come to this country for you to become a firefighter." So they weren't super supportive of that dream. But then, honestly, throughout growing up, it was one of those things that gave me extreme anxiety. I had no idea what I wanted to be. None. No idea. People had encouraged me. They were like, "You're very verbal. You should be a lawyer." I was really successful on the debate team. And so that was a suggestion that I kind of ran with a little bit. But I never felt a deep passion or connectedness to like this. I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to go to school so that I can practice and study law.
Right.
But it was something that was almost kind of assumed and assigned. Yeah. That I just was like, okay, well, because I don't have anything else that I'm thinking about right now. Sure. And so that was kind of the evolution of my, at least, desires.
So when it was assumed and assigned, is that the point where like your life plan started to like unfold for you? Was that like, okay, I'm going to do this, so this means I have to get these type of grades and apply to these type of schools?
Absolutely not. So my path was very, very different. In the eighth grade, I got jumped. I got jumped by several girls and guys.
What?
You know, it provoked my existential crisis that I had. I had my first existential crisis when I was 10. And then I had the other one when I was 13, when I got jumped by both guys and girls. I'd always been the same person that I am today. I was back then.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize at the time that when you have a certain light, you know, regardless of how you may see yourself, because I was like, I'm not that cute. I was like, you know, I'm fun, you know,
right.
And like I have friends who like think I'm fun, and you know, in that regard, I was kind of popular in my grade, but. You know, this guy liked me in a grade that, like, my school was from 7th through 12th grade, and this guy in the 9th grade.
7th through 12th, damn.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay? This guy in the 9th grade, like, he had liked me, but I've known him for a while, and I don't even know if the girls liked him, but they didn't like that he liked me. And so it was just like, really, it's always the root of problems is usually a boy.
Yes.
But I remember that it started with that, and I'd never gotten into any fights, never started anything with anyone, and I realized that people, you can be as great as you want to be, and be intentional about that, but people will project onto you what they think of you.
Yep.
Anyway, and that was my first existential crisis. What it also taught me was that I'm very much so. Like the actions and the non-actions that I take in this world have direct consequence to my life.
Right.
So, you know, I realized that I had been very invested in the groups of friends that I had. I put them ahead of me. And when it came down to, you know, the situation that I was in, it wasn't that they were running away. They just weren't as there for me as I would have probably have been there for them.
Right. You realized it was like an unreciprocal friendship. And it just more so, even less about them, just illuminated what I needed to do. Right.
That I needed to really be much more in control of, like, not only myself, but also just be very much more aware of everything, and really think about how, like, if I can't control my space right now, you know, whether it's home life, school life, what can I do to set it up for the future? Right. So in the 8th grade, I was like, all right, you know what? I got to make some changes, because I'm like, I don't want to be in this space with people who don't understand me, or are committed to misunderstanding me, from being at home and clashing a lot with my parents to like being at school and people projecting things onto me. I felt like I wasn't really being I wasn't really being judged by who I actually truly was. Right. And so I craved and I sought independence. That was my only thing. I was like, you know what? I'm 13 now. By 17, that's around the time people go to college. I said, I want to leave my house and I want to never come back. So what do I have to do between now and then to get there? That was my only goal. I was just
That's some real determination for a 13-year-old because
yeah.
I got into a lot of fights in middle school and high school for similar reasons. You know, this boy liked me. I've had boys beat me up because they liked me and I told them to stop fucking harassing me. And I've had girls beat me up, or not even all. I didn't always get beat up. Okay, let me just put that out there. Okay, but just saying, you learn how to have hands after a while. But like, I never like had the awareness to be like, okay, I need to surround myself. I was just like very like defense mode.
Yeah.
So like it's the fact that you were able to turn that around and kind of formulate what you wanted for yourself at that age is great. So how exactly did you plan to leave the house by 17?
Yeah. So my plan was, okay, I'm in the 8th grade now. I was like, all right, bet. When I go back to school, because remember my school is 7th through 12th grade, I said, I'm going to do every single thing that they tell me to do in school. I was like, that is the only thing I'm going to do differently. So I said, anytime there's classwork, I'm going to do it. If there's homework, I'm going to do it. I will do nothing less and nothing more.
You got focused.
That's it. I mean, but I didn't really change much. It was interesting because I was still extremely social, still hung out with my friends after school. Didn't put any extra time towards studying, but my grades went up significantly, like significantly. And so from there, I set the tone from 9th grade that I was just getting A's all the time because I realized that like, wow, I could, if I just slightly apply myself and do what I'm told, then I actually know what's going on in the class.
Right. Well, because like, school's not even about like being smarter. It's about your ability to have discipline.
To have discipline, right. Yeah. So I had a sense of priority in that regard. And I just got things done, and that kind of just became automatic. It became automatic, taking care of the things that I needed to take care of in order to do the things that I wanted to do. I realized that while I'm here in my household, I want peace. I don't like drama. I don't like confrontation.
Right.
So I was like, let me put myself in a situation where I can almost but avoid that.
Right.
And of course, you know, living with parents who are my mom especially, very temperamental, she still found problems, but at least I minimized them. So I was just like, let me at least establish myself so that I can, you know, be responsible and have myself together so that when it is time to go to school, I don't have to ask anybody for money. I wanted to be as independent as possible. That was my number one goal. It wasn't just to get out of school. It was to do that with no strings attached.
And this led to you getting a scholarship to Harvard.
Yes. And so that was really hella unexpected. No lie. I was definitely not the kid. Like, my parents and my dad is Nigerian. And so, of course, when we were younger, you know, my children will go to Harvard. But, you know, he didn't even know anyone in Harvard. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't like my parents hadn't seen one report card. One report card throughout high school.
Oh,
they
wow.
did not see one. They had no idea that I was doing good in school. In fact, they had only seen me as a projection of what they thought I was. You know, especially prior to when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And even then, I was never a bad kid or a bad student. I just often felt misunderstood. So they had no idea what was going on. So I literally guided myself throughout high school. And thank God I had an older sister, 2 years older than me. And so she had gotten into Vanderbilt just 2 years prior. So, you know, I knew that it was possible to go get into school with a scholarship and all of that. So that was definitely helpful. But then the reason why I even applied to Harvard was because a girl from my school went on a college tour at Harvard, and she said, yeah, there was this girl named Karen. She was Black, and she gave us our tour. And I'm like, she's a sophomore at Harvard. I'm like, she's from New York? She's like, yeah, she's from New York. I'm like, she went to school in New York? Yeah, she did. New York City? She was like, yeah. I said, a public school in New York City? She was like, yeah. So I was like, wow. So I didn't even know that Black people went to Harvard. I thought it was, so when my dad would say, oh yeah, my kids would go to Harvard, it felt like almost like this pipe dream. And once I got older and I saw the types of people that went to certain schools, you kind of mentally limit yourself, or you project onto yourself where you think you can be too. And so that's kind of what happened with me. And so I just never imagined it. But when she told me that, I was like, okay, let me apply. So I didn't tell anybody I applied, submitted my application, didn't think anything of it. There was other schools that I had in mind of wanting to attend. And so when it came back, I was just like, oh, snap. Like, they were like, when did you apply? You know, how did this happen? And I decided to go because I went to the campus and it felt like I was supposed to be there. So that was the reason why I attended.
Nice. So you go to Harvard, and is that where you decide that you're going to pursue being an educator?
Kind of, because I still had no idea what I wanted to do. So now here I am at Harvard, finally free from my home, finally free.
Free from your home in Harvard.
You know, free. Like, this was the peak. This was the peak of what I ever could have dreamed of. I never thought about my life after 17.
Right.
I had one goal. One goal was get to 17, make it out alive, get a scholarship, get out, no strings attached, never come back. That was it.
Right.
That was the only thing I understood. But once I got there, I felt really lost. And, you know, it was crazy because it wasn't until I graduated that I realized how depressed I was. I was involved in a lot of things, but when I came home, I felt just really drained and almost sometimes purposeless, or I felt like I was hustling really hard and then not feeling really gratified by the things that I was doing.
Right.
Not because they weren't the things that I wanted to do, but because I felt like there was something really missing. And but the one thing that did make sense to me and resonated with me was always kids. I've always been a big kid myself, so I just never I really remember so many details of my childhood, and you know, despite my parents being like a little crazy when I got into my teen years, I had a really great childhood, and they really exposed me to a lot of awesome things. And basically from 0 to 10, I had really great opportunities and experiences and all of that. And so I feel like that gave me a really good foundation to be able to relate to young people. But also because, like I said, I went through an existential crisis at 13. Not many people have that kind of realization at the time that I did.
Right.
It was a pivotal time. It was a crucial time. And so I found myself wanting, because I understood what that felt like, going into schools and working with middle school students, working with high school students, to activate that sense of self-determination in kids, to basically realize that you can actually alter and change your situation, that where you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow.
Right.
And so that was the one thing that I clung to in terms of being that person to show kids that. So I would tutor in schools, mentor in schools, throughout college. And so when it came down to looking for a job and figuring out what the next steps were, because I still had no concrete idea, I was like, the closest thing to me, or the thing that makes the most sense to me, is like, I had this random opportunity to go to Harvard for free. And so I need to go back into my neighborhood and show other kids what is possible, and at least be an example and give back to my community in a way that it gave to me.
Right.
You know? So I ended up becoming a teacher. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I think that it's a real testament to how, look, in our culture, they try to make it seem like, okay, when you turn 18, that's when you need to figure it out. But it's really the way that it's set up. In order to actually really be successful, you have to really be starting at a much younger age.
Yeah.
And it's great that you were a mentor, because I think mentorship is something that not a lot of kids have but need. Even if you have the best parents with the best intentions, I think it's important to have an unbiased adult that kids can talk to and help guide them through these things, because it is so overwhelming to try to figure out, that's why Gen Z is so goddamn stressed out.
Yeah, I know.
I feel for them, because it's just there's this constant pressure to narrow it down to one thing and figure it out. And you figured it out because you had that existential crisis at 13. But even still, going through high school, Harvard, you still were uncertain by through that process.
Right. And I was waiting and hoping for everything to click. I'm like, shit, why can't this fucking click? Why can't I be normal was really my frustration. And why can't I settle into anything? Why can't I be happy with the things that I find myself in? Why can't I just be content with that? And I knew that I always felt unsettled, but at least I felt like I had, something that I felt was of value, which was to at least, I had something that I felt like was of value, which was to offer my experience at the very least.
Right. So you become a teacher and you're offered tenure.
Yes.
But you realize it wasn't necessarily aligned with what you wanted. So what was that process like? How did you know that you were probably set or destined to take a different path than the one you were already kind of solidified in?
Yeah. So, so I was teaching, and I mean, I taught in a really, really tough school for many reasons. I taught in Brownsville, Brooklyn, which actually has the highest concentration of public housing in the United States of America.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's basically about 1 square mile. And it's just like, kids who are living in pretty tough circumstances with a lot of people in buildings that are, not always well kept. Some of them don't have heat. A lot of them don't have food. Many of them are homeless. So just, very, very tough. And I was teaching middle school. So this was like, the best setting that I could have been in, because the thing is that I wanted to do teaching for the reasons that I wanted to be in a situation where I wanted to be with a challenge and really utilize my experiences to show students what was possible. So while it really was tough, I felt like I was able to succeed for the reason that it was my purpose. This was my purpose, right? Like I was supposed to be here and I was supposed to go through all of this.
Right.
So I was able to be very quickly successful as a teacher. I got hired by the DOE as well to be a teacher coach by my second year of teaching. So I was training incoming new teachers and how to, establish their classrooms in the beginning of the year, behavior management, best classroom practices. And so, I found my groove in that sense. But the shift occurred for me my third year of teaching when I switched to another school, and I realized that no matter where I went, no matter what school I go to, or no matter how much of a groove I get into my career, so much of my career would be so determined by other people. Mm-hmm. Remember, my goal was freedom.
Right.
And so being a teacher didn't necessarily give me that, because I love my kids. And if it was just me and my kids, then it would be perfect. I probably would have never left. I would have just had music in the classroom, would have been learning, we'd have just having a great little time. But it's the bureaucracy, the bureaucratic structure around it and all of the stakeholders around it that make it a lot more challenging. And so I realized that even if I have a great career and things are going well for a few years, I could potentially get a principal that doesn't like me. I saw it happen to a lot of other teachers, for some for good reasons, some for no reason. And I was just like, I can't have my life at the mercy of anybody else anymore. Mm-hmm. This is what I fought hard to get out of. So there was that thought. But then there was also that lingering thought that I always wanted to be a songwriter. I wrote my first song when I was 8 years old. And I just never saw it as a legitimate path, because I was just there was nobody else talking about being a songwriter that I knew. I didn't think I was a particularly great singer, so it wasn't like I was always in the choirs or anything like that. So I just didn't know what the vehicle was to get there.
Right.
And so, but I woke up one day in 2016 and I was like, I gotta go. It just clicked to me. I was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm going to figure out how to become a songwriter. So it really kind of happened that day. And I made the decision, the beginning of my fourth year of teaching. And I was like, okay, this is it.
Mm-hmm. So when you decided to become a songwriter, what steps did you take to start to kind of hone the craft and actually immerse yourself into the space? Especially because, like you said, you didn't really see yourself as an entertainer, more as a writer. So that's a completely different approach than if you're the artist who's singing and writing and performing the songs. Right.
Yeah. And I realized that definitely a lot of my dream was also attached to sometimes my fear of being kind of in the limelight. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of afraid, even though people have always encouraged me to be in the limelight. And I'm a Leo, so, I don't mind attention. But usually attention from people that I know.
Right.
And so that was kind of scary for me because I had to be the vehicle to present my music. Mm-hmm. And so that was tough. And so what I actually did was, because I knew by the October of my fourth year of teaching that I knew that I wanted to leave the classroom. So what I did was I started building my life within that job around music. Okay. I started a songwriting club in the school. I set up a donor's choose, so I got some recording equipment. At the talent show at the school, I picked out some kids. I said, hey, I'm doing a songwriting club. come through. So I had about like 10 kids who would come to my classroom like every lunch period. I dedicated my lunch periods and my after school time to writing music with kids. And it was the best thing that I could have ever done, because what it did was that it allowed me to, develop my own craft with kids and in the most freest, warmest setting,
right?
Because we were all just working together and figuring out our stories and piecing it all together. And I knew a few things, and I knew how to help students articulate their thoughts, especially because they're so young. So the vocabulary is still rather small. So helping them to develop that, I found a lot of joy in that, but also found a lot of joy in connecting with them in a human level,
right?
Because it was just like we have this opportunity to have this very even and level playing field of something that we can all participate in, which kind of like almost eliminates that hierarchy of like, you need to respect me because I'm a teacher and I need to submit to you because I'm a kid. I never liked that dynamic ever.
Rooted in slavery.
Yeah, exactly. I always told my kids, I don't want you to respect me because I'm an adult. I want you to respect me because I'm a human.
Yes.
And so that really... that space emphasized that all for me and really affirmed that. So it was the perfect thing and the best thing that I could have done. Saw all this awesome potential and talent in my kids. They gave me a lot of feedback, encouragement, and they were like, Miss Lau, you have to do this. You're really good. They really gave me a lot of the encouragement and the support that I needed to take the risk. And so what happened after that was a series of alignment. I just started... Because now I was doing the music, this is something I had been avoiding doing. Now when I was going out into places, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a teacher and I'm a songwriter.
Right.
And I had the confidence to start saying that, which was scary. Like even just saying it, can open up a whole portal.
Because you're then vulnerable.
Absolutely.
I think being an artist is just automatically constantly living in a state of vulnerability, especially like... Because people are like, oh, can I hear your work?
Yeah.
And they're going to judge it. And you have to be okay with them judging it.
Absolutely. And I felt so early in that phase that I didn't really feel ready to do that.
Right. What were some learning curves that you dealt with when you made this transition?
Yeah. Self-doubt. because it wasn't that... Surprisingly, my parents, I love my parents because they... while they were challenging and tough on me growing up, and I've often felt very misunderstood, they never forced me to be anything.
Right.
They never, and despite them being Nigerian parents, you would think, because a lot of times if you're Nigerian, you have like a couple of options. Doctor,
engineer,
or
lawyer.
Pick one. Yep. Pick wisely.
Yes.
Because that you only get 3.
Right.
And I have friends whose parents literally were like, I'm not paying for your school if you don't do any of those 3.
Wow.
And I've never had that experience. Well, I also didn't have them pay for my school. But that was never like a thing. My dad, his whole thing was like, I came to this country and worked hard in a job that I didn't necessarily want to work in so that you could do whatever the hell you want to do. So that I always heard growing up. They would have preferred if I had become a doctor, but it was never like a force.
Right.
So when I told them that I was leaving my job, they were like, absolutely, this doesn't even seem like you.
Right.
Like, we're surprised. They thought I was going to be an actress because in high school I would act and everything. They were like, yeah, you were definitely supposed to be creative. So like, go for it. So I had that encouragement. I had encouragement from everywhere, but I realized that I still was living against this narrative in my head about who I was supposed to be. I started projecting onto myself who I was supposed to be because I went to school like Harvard, because I had felt like I had these expectations of me. I felt like people expect a lot from me. People want to see me doing really big things. And so to adjust course in this way and, to not be successful at it, that would be like devastating. And so that pressure was really challenging for me to overcome. And it's still something that I constantly deal with till this day.
So you dealt with self-doubt, but did you have... It seems like you mostly just had people who were supportive of it. There wasn't anyone who was like discouraging you from taking the path.
No, surprise. Like and I think that's probably why it took, because nobody did. I know, like for most people, like their story is that like people were telling me I couldn't do it. Nope. Every time I hear people hear my stuff, they're like, this should be on the radio. So like everybody that has been a part of, from strangers to friends to family, they're like, yo, this is fire. Go for it. Right. So I've never actually had any doubters on the external. So it's all come from within, and that's been something that I've been working to unpack. And that's taken me on a journey in and of itself as well.
So let's say you're 13-year-old Addy again.
Yes. Okay.
What do you think would have helped you come to this just passion path. I don't even want to call it a career path of being a songwriter sooner in your life? What are some things that would have, if like the kids that you're mentoring, that would have helped you be like, okay, I can do this?
I think that if I had somebody like me at the time that, a teacher or a music arts provider of some sort that could have helped me to nurture that skill, then I think that would have been helpful. I think if I joined, if I embraced my voice, because I'm a perfectionist, and so I knew that my voice, I was like, oh, okay, I can kind of sing when I was younger, but I was like, I'm not the best singer. And so sometimes, you can limit yourself when things don't work out the first time.
Right.
And I think if I knew about growth mindset and the fact that where you are today doesn't have to be where you are tomorrow, earlier, that could have been helpful. So I just think just having mentorship and examples and more arts in the schools. My school was specifically geared towards medical sciences. My school was like
a
they
STEM
wanted
school?
us to be they wanted us to be doctors, so we would do rotations and stuff in hospitals. Back in middle school, high school. So that was the early exposure I was getting. And that was awesome if I wanted to be a doctor, because I was literally in hospitals, experiencing different types of branches of the hospital, and getting a really robust understanding of what that experience could feel like and look like. And so it would have been really cool if I had that opportunity within music to do the same. But that wasn't necessarily the path. And I quickly, just transferred my interest into something else creative. I always danced too. When I was younger, I would do ballet, tap, hip hop, everything. So I was always involved in something creative, and then it ended up being acting. So fortunately, I was still able to maintain that creative flow of things, but within music specifically, I just didn't know of any songwriters.
Right.
I knew of people who sang. I knew of people who did all of that.
And honestly, songwriting is a very underrated career path.
Absolutely.
Because you get to have the pleasure of creating music, but not all the BS that comes with being a celebrity.
Exactly. I don't want to be a celebrity. That's
no thanks.
I don't want that pressure. I'm definitely critical of celebrities at times, but honestly, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes, because it's very difficult to just be everybody's role model, everybody's best friend. It's like I said, independence and freedom is just at the top of my priority, and I just want to be able to make my mistakes and keep it moving and live my life and be human, and that's most important to me.
Yeah, I think there's just this collective belief though, also that careers in the arts are unrealistic or not, or that you only can be an entertainer when really there's a myriad of different. You could be a music supervisor, you could own your own studio, you could be a sound engineer,
absolutely.
You could teach, but I think that in order for kids to know that, like you said, they only know that if they have people like you.
Absolutely,
and there definitely needs to be more examples of other ways people can pursue the arts, because the arts are so important, and I don't think people value them the way that they should. No. I think people value science and medicine, which is important, but if we don't have both of those things, what's going to happen to society? There's
no innovation at that point. And somebody was sharing me that there was a report that they took of, or some type of study they did of CEOs, and they found that one of the biggest skills, or the best skills in the CEOs that they studied that really set them apart, was creativity.
Right.
What made them different than just the competent person who could do the job was that they were creative enough to see opportunity, to bring innovation, to create possibility.
Right.
And I think that when you have a creative mindset, your mentality is adaptive. You're able to move through the punches. You're able to figure out a way.
You're much more mutable. Yeah.
And that's been able to help me with my career, as I've been able to pivot and do this and do that and do this and do that, and still kind of figure out a way to definitely know who I am, but find different avenues to get to where I want to go.
Right. What are some of the other challenges associated with having a very stable career and then veering off into a completely different kind of uncertain path?
Yeah, so that was tough because my first year I was extremely depressed. I was super, super depressed. I got a job where I could work from home most of the time, and it was one of the first times that I really got to sit with myself.
Right.
Because when you think about it, I was like, yo, I've been just moving. Like since high school, like I just been been something for everybody else. And then college, I still felt like I was being something for everybody else. Not because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, but because I still felt like this load of pressure that I'm like, I don't want to be the first kid who got into Harvard from my school or my neighborhood who wasn't able to finish. Right. And so a lot of my life was governed by fear. It was the fear of not living up to this idea of me as opposed to this love of me.
Right.
And so realizing and sitting in that space within myself and seeing like, shit, like I don't like myself and I don't know why. And I'm, everyone sees me as confident and I would identify as confident, but that seems to be just the surface layer of me. But when you peel it back, and I'm peeling it back because I have to sit with myself, I'm not comfortable with hearing myself sing. I'm not comfortable with watching myself on a screen. I'm not even comfortable with hearing my voice. Like, I'm not, like, there's so many things that I didn't like about myself because I hadn't really embraced who I was.
Right.
And I didn't have time to. Every day, and then, think about coming from, like, a high intense setting like Harvard, then to going to a high intense setting like being a school teacher in a very challenging neighborhood with high expectations. It was really, really difficult. And, every day, when I was a teacher, my days were completely dedicated to my kids. When I came home, I spent most of my days depressed and sad about having to go back and do the same thing, not because of my kids, love my kids, but because of like the fear that somebody could just come in my classroom and then call me out for something that I didn't realize that I didn't do.
Right.
Everything felt antagonistic in my life. Everything felt, like it was picking and prying at me. And so this was the first time where I didn't have that. And I realized that all of those voices that I'd gotten used to had become my voice. I become the negative person.
The nagging coworker or boss was actually you.
That was me. And I had to deal with that. And it was really, really fucking challenging. Like it was awful. But you know how they say the only way is through? So that was tough. But financially, some of the challenges there, I was a teacher. I wasn't making that much. So It wasn't like a crazy transition. I was making less on my first job. But that's when I started to really tap into manifestation. So I got into some real cool spaces in my dark spaces. I got into some real cool mental how to put it? Mental channels. I don't know. I was able to access something because I realized at the middle of 2014, I was like, I can actually manifest the things that I want. And I started to really just start building and building because I was at rock bottom. So I was just like building and building. I was like, all right, this I don't like, I can fix. This I must accept. But either way, I was like, I need to love myself at my lowest. And that was the lesson that I got from 2014 that I didn't realize that I needed to learn. Sorry, not 2014, 2017, that I didn't realize that I needed to learn. And from there, I just started manifesting these opportunities. So I was like, the next thing I need right now is a job where I can work from home, but also like get out and see people, work with kids, work with teachers, and kind of and use that as a way to help me support my career because I still needed money to do my music. I was recording and I was doing all of that, but I needed a job. And at the time, I was like, I need something a little bit more stable, something a little bit more financially lucrative. And then it all came to me. Everything I started asking for came to me. Studios, producers started lining up. Everything that I was writing down and breathing life into was coming to fruition.
You were taking stock of what you needed.
Absolutely. And it just all started to kind of blossom from there. So that was exciting.
Let's see here. So how do you envision your career now unfolding, that you've taken this new path? You seem like you are a lot more confident than you were when you originally started. You're a lot more liberated. You have more power. What do you see for yourself now?
So, yes, very good question. That job that I told you that, I got and I manifested that was able to kind of help me push me through the past 2 years. I got a phone call from them in November that they were letting me go from the job. Now, prior to that week that they decided to let me go, I was in LA. And I was out there for a songwriting conference. I'm a part of a national songwriting organization, and that happened in 2018. So another thing I had manifested. Wanted a mentor. I wanted to be mentored by somebody within the industry who wasn't a reflection of the industry that I had, at least the industry that I had come to understand.
Yeah.
And I was able to receive that. And so that was a blessing. So at the end of 2019, I was at a conference where I got to perform my music and play my music for industry execs and all of that. And I got a lot of great connections and opportunities through that experience. And so when I left LA, I was like, oh my God, I want to leave my job so bad. I want to leave my job
and then
so
it just,
bad.
Yeah.
2 days later, they let me go. And so it was perfect because, you know, I would have made excuses to leave. I would have probably dragged my feet, but sometimes the universe has to push you out. And so I had already planned that I was going to spend the first 3 months, because I was like, I get caught up in the year. So I was like, I want to spend the first 3 months really just diving into my music and immersing myself. So I was like, I'm going to take some savings and like, you know, budget a little better and just like really just do it and just get some things done as far as recording, writing, and all of that. And so that's where I am right now. So here we are in February, and I just came back from Nigeria. So it's been about 2 weeks since I've been back, and I said the first 2 weeks, I just want to focus on wellness. It's like I just want to get into the right mindset. I want to forgive myself quickly for things that I don't do correctly or what I perceive as correctly.
Right.
I just need to get through the journey of self-doubt. That's and focus on that daily practice, like you were saying.
Yeah.
That was my priority for the past 2 weeks. And I'm carrying that priority into this month because now I'm just going to be recording and writing and you know, those producers that I connected with out there in LA last year. I was able to pitch some music to some awesome people. And so I'm just going to continue to build my catalog and hopefully, you know, see where that takes me. I'll be going to South by Southwest in March. And so there's an opportunity potentially for me to perform. Fingers crossed, still waiting to hear back from that. But I hope that I am able to do that because that would be an awesome highlight. In fact, my own personal dreams as far as music goes is like, if there's anything that I could do, I would like to make music, make money off of doing music and writing music for other people. But for myself, I always just wanted to perform in front of other people, specifically other Black women. Like that's always been my thing. That's my audience, and I'm happy that I've already been able to accomplish those things. So everything else is really just up from here. Like I just feel really abundant right now, and I'm so grateful. I think about it every day that like that was the best decision that I made back in 2016 to wake up and then follow my instinct, my gut. It had no plan, no path. As far as like this music industry, I didn't know anybody in the music industry in 2016.
Right.
By the top of 2017, I knew 3 people.
Right.
And like it happens when you say it and when you ask for it, it really does come to you. So that's one thing I would say.
Okay. So we're going to outro with a segment called Choose Your Own Adventure. All right. So with this segment, I like to do like little quiz type of thing, but this one's not a quiz. This is basically going to be you picking a path out of 3 options in 3 different scenarios.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So let's say that you just graduated high school. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have 3 opportunities presented to you right now. Mm-hmm. Option 1, go to Harvard, which you did.
Okay.
Option 2, go on tour. Ooh. Option 3, write an album for a major label artist.
Ooh. Okay. Good question. What would I have done? I'm happy. I would choose option A. I don't regret anything I've done. And I feel now that, you know, I'm older now, but I think that if I was to get that kind of success when I was younger and not grounded in my foundation of who I am, not to say that I wouldn't have gotten there, but I think it would have been very difficult to do with people not holding me accountable, because that tends to happen when you are a celebrity or famous, or if you have money. Right. People all of a sudden feel like you don't need personal development, and they don't tell you shit about yourself.
Right.
And I needed that constructive criticism both from myself and from others. So I think that I would have still chosen my path.
That's good. I think the entertainment industry also fetishizes youth. Mm-hmm. And it sucks to when artists have to grow up in front of, especially in the social media era, like people shame younger artists a lot, but then don't realize like how stupid they were when they were that age.
Yeah, it's true. I was very dumb. So when people are like, oh, you know, she was 18 and she said this, I'm like, okay,
whatever.
Yeah, it's a little racist and offensive, and like, you know, probably that could be how she thinks now. But honestly, like, I didn't have to grow up in front of the limelight. And I'm
sure there's some stupid stuff that I said or thought back then.
I used to say all types of crazy stuff when I was in high school because we all thought it was funny.
Right.
That was where our minds were at the time, and things changed. So
okay, scenario 2. Who's your favorite songwriter?
Oh my God.
So I know how to put on this thing.
Who's my favorite songwriter? That is so hard.
Just anyone who's written a song that you wish you wrote.
I like that question. And there's somebody. Who is it? I'm actually gonna go ahead and say Wizkid. I think Wizkid is a fantastic songwriter. Yeah.
Cool. So scenario 2, you get 3 capabilities. Mm-hmm. You can only pick one.
Okay.
You can either play multiple instruments like Stevie.
Okay.
Sing like Whitney.
Okay.
Or write like Wizkid.
Oh. Damn. You see, I'm torn between sing like Whitney, but honestly, all of those are fantastic skill sets. I wish I had them all.
I know.
Because Whitney is my vocal idol. And
she is the voice.
She is the voice. Like I've never heard a better one. But I think I would have to choose. I would have to hone in on my craft and write like Wizkid. Okay. I don't want to be able, because he writes with the freedom that I think comes from real hustle and struggle. Funny enough, he one of his famous crossover songs, Oju Elegba, my mom works on that road in Lagos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was really cool being there and be like, oh my God, I love him and I love my mom and she's here. That's cute. I would definitely want that writing ability.
Okay. Last scenario. This one has to do with your fusing of your talent with education.
Okay.
So 3 options. Option 1, mentoring emerging songwriters in the music industry. Option 2, teaching students the craft of songwriting in an academic setting, which you do. Or option 3, inspiring the youth indirectly through creating impactful work on a large scale.
Can you repeat number 1 more time?
Mentoring emerging songwriters in the music industry.
Number 1.
Number 1?
Mm-hmm. I would choose number 1 just because I would want that opportunity to help people to find their voice using the tools and the methods that I feel are specific to what they need.
Right.
I think the challenge within an education or within a traditional teaching or academic setting is that it can be very difficult to convince or to get calibrated on what that is within a bureaucracy. Right. Because a bureaucracy is meant to teach the masses and not meant to teach the very specific people that you are seeking to reach.
Right.
And I'm all about, custom delivery. Yeah. Like I want to work with everybody one-on-one. And then at scale, I think this just, that's just kind of like the trickle down effect a little bit to me. That like, oh, if I'm great, then you'll see it and it'll inspire you. And it's just like, there's a little bit more than that.
Right.
So
it's not a hands-on approach. Absolutely. And also, I think artist development is just like, it's not a thing anymore.
Underrated.
It used to be.
Yeah.
But now it's just like, it's very like, just churn out whatever.
Absolutely.
We can churn out.
And that's why like a lot of these music has like very little longevity and whatnot. And so just to shout out my songwriting organization and Kevin Shine, the founder, he's really doing some amazing work.
Is he from Atlanta?
He lives in Atlanta.
I know him.
Do you?
I know of him from back when I used to be a music maker.
Right, because you're from Chicago.
I'm from Minneapolis, but I lived in Chicago for 4 years.
Yo.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's crazy because he's awesome. And like, I always would describe, like I go to the songwriting boot camps in Atlanta and it feels like a Motown for songwriters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the type of level of development that I feel like we're getting within the organization. Right. And it makes me so happy because when we went out to LA, some of the people in the industry, they played their songs for us. And we were like, okay, it's cool. And then we got up, like we're nobodies from like, nowhere. And we played our songs and they were coming up to us like, yo, what is that?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that we're tapping into something that I feel like people are craving, which is something real, something that's grounded, something that's authentic. And I like the music that don't mean shit either. Don't get me wrong. I'm just a music fan.
We need both.
We need both. We do.
Need balance. Sometimes everything can't always be heavy, you know?
Right. People are like, oh, how do you feel about people don't write their music? I don't think that everybody should write their music, to be honest.
Whitney didn't write her music.
Exactly.
We don't care.
Exactly.
Does it sound good?
Does it
Just
sound
make
good?
me feel good?
Does it feel good, really, right? Because she's tapping into something.
Yes.
She's tapping. I don't care who wrote those words. It sounded like it came from her, and she tapped into something that felt like that experience.
Yes.
And I think that that's important. So
that's what artistry is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think part of like the journey with me as a songwriter, I always used to write by myself. And now that I'm writing with other people, it's just pushing my writing.
Yeah.
And the collaborative experience is just awesome. It's tough because you got to deal with a lot of personalities and a lot of ego, but it teaches you to put your own ego behind the scenes and to really do what's best for the song.
Right.
So we're learning so many amazing skills that are super helpful for me as I navigate my career, and to just have that kind of leadership and support of somebody who really cares about quality music.
Right.
It's been awesome. So.
Not related, but did you watch the Motown documentary?
Oh my gosh, I saw clips of it. I didn't see the whole thing.
You should watch it.
Yeah,
yes.
I love Motown, and I saw clips of it. I need to go back and watch the whole thing.
Yes. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, and I just want to shout you out because LaChelle has been awesome. She really set off my year in the right way. I still have your speech in my phone.
What?
Yes.
What
and I'm
speech?
I'm gonna repost it today.
Oh my God.
You'll see.
I just be going on tangents.
She had her and her awesome brand, The Fellowship. She had a event called the event was called The Fellowship.
Yes.
Yep. The event was called The Fellowship, and she invited some awesome creatives out to just basically get us revved up and encouraged and inspired for the year. And you never know what the power of your words could do to set people off in the direction that they already kind of had in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
And it was awesome and encouraging because it was just like exactly what I needed to hear. Just because I made that leap when I was in 2016 doesn't mean that I don't need that constant reminder.
Yeah.
Because nothing is linear. I have these moments of doubt where I'm just kind of like, damn, like I'm tired. It's not like I don't lose course. I didn't lose sight of my dream yet, but it's just kind of like, man, I don't feel like doing nothing sometimes. And like, that's real. But people don't talk about that.
Right.
Like people always talk, I just worked so hard and I just every day.
You hit lulls. You have to, though. It's usually a reminder that there's something internal that you have to visit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that really helped to set me off in the right direction. Just you're seeing your self-determination and you ironing out and deciding what your future is going to look like. I'm like, I got to really do the same thing and like really push myself so that when I'm 32, I'm like, yo, I'm where I want to be, or not where, because it's not really a destination, but I'm moving through life with the effort and the energy and the heart and the love for what I do in a consistent way.
Alignment.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Alignment in a way that feels easy, in a way that feels at ease, because nothing's easy, but in a way where I feel at ease, in a way that I feel just so centered and aligned with my purpose. That's what I really want more than anything.
Well, I'm glad you took something away from it.
Thank you.
Cool. What's your social media handles and your website and stuff?
Okay, so you can follow me, Addy the Crown. They call me Addy the Baddie too. So, but that's debatable or whatever, depending on what you like. But you can follow me at The Crown of Wealth. The Crown of Wealth. My name actually translates to The Crown of Wealth. And you can also see my website is thecrownofwealth.com. So you can check out my music there. If you need a writer, I got jokes. I'm fun. I can do this thing. I can dance sometimes. No, but hit me up if you need anything. If you I love talking to kids. So if anyone's listening and you want to do a workshop at your school, or if you work with kids, please hit me up. I'll never say no to that. Just let me know in advance so I can schedule it out. And that's what I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing over the spring, doing workshops in schools again. And now that I have my time back, I'm really putting it in and towards the things that help to grow other people and also grow me by proxy.
Nice. This episode of Day One Fans is presented in partnership with Listening Party. Follow the crew on Instagram at Listening Party Presents and at Canal Street Market. You can follow the show's Instagram at Day One Fans and me on socials at Creative by L. If you liked what you heard, be sure to rate, like, subscribe, and share.